Good morning, one. Good morning, all. Apologies for the late start. I'm going to do the best I can this morning. Today, as promised, we are going to go through a piece that was forwarded to me by the Anons, and it's quite intricate, quite long. Let me just try and see if I can fix the background here. Forgot to stick the lights on before we got started. Oh, disappearing. That'll do for now. Good morning, live chat. Good morning, one. Good morning, all. We have Vincent Cavan in the house, Jacinta Chadwick. Good morning. Also, John Paul Williams, Shawnee Mack, Melissa O'Neill. Good morning, Melissa. Michael, John, Dennis. Michael, keep the chin up. Job will come short soon. You will get there soon, my friend. John Dye, Rose White, Shawnee Mack, Liam Kelly, John 95, and the one and only Rogue Z up bright and early this morning. So like I said to you this morning, no messing around. We've got a lot to get through. I've decided I'm going to try and break these down into 1 hour broadcasts. So for the next couple of hours, I invite you to join me. I know not everybody is going to be able to hang around and stay for the entirety of the production, but I think it's important that we get through it all. I presume it's going to take 3 or 4 broadcasts. So what I'm going to do is I'll set the timer in for around about 55 minutes, and then I will rebroadcast 10 or 15 minutes. We'll set it up again, and I'll break it down into part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, for however length of time it takes this morning. And it's all focused on a very intricate and well-researched piece that an anonymous bakers, the Anons, have put forward and brought together. And effectively, it's a group of well-informed parents that want to present this information. So I am going to read through it. There's names, there's accounts, there's conversations. It starts from the classroom and it goes all the way to the UN, effectively. So I want you to buckle in. I want you to bear with. We're not going to have the usual morning's frivolity, I say, but as a matter of documentation and as a matter of record, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get through this together. We're going to go, and I'm going to read it through. I'll try and keep up with some of your questions as I read through it. But like I say, I encourage you all to share this as much as you can, or send it in. Like I said to you, it's going to be could be a 3 or a 4-parter at an estimate. So we will go through this odyssey together. Should you think it's of any importance or any information, you should want to share this and pass it on to all parents concerned. As I said, this is a very detailed broadcast, very detailed piece that we're going to get through together. I don't expect you all to last the distance throughout the day, but I thank you for your company throughout the day. And like I said yesterday, we are going to get this done like we do on every broadcast. Don't forget, press that like button, press the subscription and the bell. You'll be reminded of future broadcasts. Please leave your thoughts, comments, and witticisms in the comment section below. If you could, please consider becoming a member of the Grand Stream by clicking on the join button, and links in the description box how you can support this channel to remain independent. And also a big shout out to all our supporters over on the Gran Torino website, World Wide Web, grandtorino.ie. Also, at the very last broadcast, I will insert a Google Drive with the complete article for you to take through. You can go through it yourselves after together, but I'm gonna put that in the very last broadcast, and then I will update all the broadcasts. So not only will you have the video version of somebody reading it out in its entirety, so you can listen to it. Still haven't as of yet sorted out any the audio drive files or SoundCloud for a podcast version of this presentation. So without further ado, and without much fanfare, we'll just give a quick shout out to our friends of the show, as we always do, the Little Pharma, World Wide Web, thelittlepharma.ie. We love our enzymes so much, we keep them alive. Wheatgrass and barley grass, Mighty Shot, small wonder they're so good. 1 wheatgrass shot is equivalent to 1 kilogram of your leafy green veg, and barley grass juice are full of antioxidants. Just shake and shoot, and don't forget to enter into your promo code if you're heading over to the website, and the promo code is GT. Well, thank you all again for your warm words about last night's broadcast. And if you could, I encourage you, the little short broadcast with Dr. Bruce Scott on the consent and the dark stream. Please share that on your platforms. 8 minutes, very succinct point, but it also has a link to the full interview with Dr. Bruce Scott. I'd be very, very appreciative if you would send that broadcast on out into the Twitter sphere. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, coffee in hand, we'll get through this first part, and I will check in with you once the allotted time of 55 minutes is up. Happy to go. New Carnree, Ellen Sheeran, John Francis, Tony Close, Janet Street, Richard Kelly, Liz Prepper, John Francis, and also Alice Clack, Michael John Dennis, the one and only. Appreciate all your company. Okay, live chat, let's do this. Okay, let's drop this out. Okay, RSE Ireland 2019, a new global vision for education. Over the last few months, it has come to the attention of many Irish parents that after 20 years of relationships and sexuality education, the RSE curriculum is to be updated for primary and post-primary schools. Obviously, parents want to know what changes might take place, and they have set out to investigate. Before examining the data, it is worth outlining that there are two parts to the proposed changes which are running concurrently. Number one, the provision of Objective Sexual Education Bill 2018. The provision of Objective Sexual Education Bill 2018 is currently before the Dáil and is in its third stage. Now, this is a little 1 or a month or two behind, so it might be a little bit more advanced, but the information is still pertinent. The bill entitled An Act to Guarantee the Right of Students to Receive Factual and Objective Relationships and Sexuality Education without regard to the characteristic spirit of the school. The bill is sponsored by Paul Murphy, Ruth Coppinger, and Mick Barry. Number two, the NCCA. The NCCA, the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, is an advisory body for the Minister of Education and Skills. It is tasked with reviewing the RSE curriculum, and its findings are due out in the summer of 2019. Quote, a paper prepared by Dr. Celine Keating, Professor Mark Morgan, and Dr. Bernie Collins for the NCCA says that internationally best practice is moving forward a holistic sex education, HSE approach, which addresses the realities of young people's lives, the diversity of sexuality and gender identities that have emerged and continue to emerge, and the challenges young people face in navigating relationships in a positive, healthy way. That from the Irish Independent, the 6th of the 2nd, 2019. The research paper, dated November 2018, requested by the NCCA is called Relationships and Sexuality Education, RSE, in primary and post-primary Irish schools. See page, on page 40, it states, with the publication of Standards in Sexuality Education and Developing Sexual Health Programs, a framework for action from the WHO in 2010, and the International Technical Guidance on Sexual Education from UNESCO in 2018, countries now have more support in developing national programs based on international best practice. Provisions of Objective Sex Education Bill 2018, and the proponents of the bill, Paul Murphy, Ruth Coppinger, Mick Barry. And this excerpt from the bill, pages 3-4 of the 2018 bill. Number 1A, when prescribing the curriculum for relationships and sexuality education, the minister shall ensure, A, the curriculum is factual and objective, age appropriate, and not gender normative. B, the curriculum includes the following areas in a factual and objective manner. Consent, number 1, consent to sexuality. Number 2, the different types of sexuality. Number 3, the different types of gender. Number 4, methods of contraception and the termination of pregnancy. The curriculum is delivered in a factual and objective manner in all schools, regardless of the characteristic spirit of the school, and the rights of students to access factual and objective education on reproductive health care is guaranteed, protected, and upheld in all schools. Good morning, Eunice. Contact details for Paul Murphy TD, contact details for Ruth Coppinger TD, no longer TD anymore, and Mick Barry. For your information, we carry on through the NCCA, their research paper, Relationships and Sexuality Education, RSE in Primary School, Post-Primary Irish Schools, a research paper by Dr. Celine Keating, Professor Mark Morgan, and Dr. Bernie Collins, dated November 28. This is the cover page of the November 2018 research paper for NCCA. And an excerpt, the HSE, Holistic Sex Education Approach, is characterized by its proponents as a wider program, which has as its primary focus sexuality as a positive human potential and a source of satisfaction and pleasure, from page 23. The WHO's Standards for Sexuality Education in Europe provide a clear framework for HSE from birth to 18 years based on key principles: a human rights approach, gender equality, sexual determination, and acceptance of diversity, a lifelong process from birth. That from page 24 of the research paper. With the publication of Standards in Sexual Education and Developing Sexual Health Programs, a framework for action from the World Health Organization, the WHO, in 2010, and International Technical Guidance on Sexuality Education from UNESCO in 2018, countries now have more support in developing national programs based on international best practice, from page 40. And finally, the All Together Now program is focused on addressing anti-LGBTI plus. Remember the plus. Always remember the plus. Bullying in primary schools in Ireland. All Together Now was commissioned to belong to youth services with funding from the Department of Education and Skills. The research took place from 2015 to 2016 and was led by a team from St. Patrick's College, DCU, Dr. Bernie Cullins, Dr. Celine Keating, and Professor Mark Morgan. See below a sample of these two reports from the WHO and UNESCO, two agencies of the United Agency. Don't forget, and I remind you that this odyssey at the end of this journey will bring us straight to the UN and those players involved too. So from the WHO regional offices from Europe, the Standards for Sexual Education in Europe, being promoted by the World Health Organization Europe. And on the cover page of that report, this will be very familiar to a great many of you. But for those of you unfamiliar with this, and those of you viewing abroad, the human body, this is the cover page of the report, and this is information that is aimed and directed at children from 0 to 4 years of age. The human body in development, the fertility and reproduction. We'll go through the parts of the sexuality just to carry on through. But the essence of what they will be teaching and promoting to children from 0 to 4. The human body and the human development, all body parts and their functions, different bodies and different sexes, body hygiene, skills, enable children to name the body part, practice hygiene, recognize body differences, and express needs and wishes. The attitudes to help children to develop a positive body image, self-image and self-esteem, respect for differences, and appreciation of their own body, and appreciation for the sense of well-being, closeness, trust created by body experience and experience of bonding. And finally, respect for gender equality. Now, you got to watch. The reason we got to go through all of this is you've got to find out the little pieces in every bit of their framework to what they're saying. The very last piece there was respect for gender equality. Number 2, the fertility and reproduction. Pregnancy, births, and babies. Basics of human reproduction, where babies come from. Different ways to become part of a family, e.g. adoption. The fact that some people have babies and some do not. Skills. Talk about these issues by providing them with the correct vocabulary. Another very key and important piece to keep an eye on. And attitudes. Acceptance of different ways of becoming a child of a family. And finally, C, sexuality. Enjoyment and pleasure when touching one's own body. Early childhood masturbation. 2, discovery of own body and own genitals. The fact of enjoyment of a physical closeness is a normal part of everyone's life. Tenderness, physical closeness, and an expression of love and affection. The skills, gain an awareness of gender identity. Talk about unpleasurable feelings in one's own body. Express own need, wishes, and boundaries, for example, in the context of playing doctor. And attitudes, a positive attitude towards one body with all its functions equal positive body image. Respect for others, and finally, curiosity regarding own and other bodies. The report has 2 authors. The United Nations authority responsible for public health is called the World Health Organization. The WHO has 6 regional offices around the world. The WHO regional offices for Europe is one of these 6 offices, and its headquarters is in Copenhagen, Denmark. And number 2, the BZJA, The Federal Center for Health Education is a Hugh collaborative center based in Cologne, Germany. UNESCO. UNESCO there has its International Technical Guidance on Sexuality Education. And that is the cover page. And I note down here, you'll see all things Education 2030. All corporate business have their logo 2030. Everything is geared around 2030. So for the next decade, from this point here to the next decade, is a warped journey to bring about these sexual education parameters. From the cover page of the report, it states learning objectives between 5 and 8 years of 8 years. No, the key idea, it is important to understand the difference between biological sex and gender. Learners will be able to define gender and biological sex and describe how they are different knowledge. Reflect on how they feel about their biological sex and their gender. Key ideas. Families, individuals, peers, and communities are resources of information about sex and gender. Learners will be able to identify sources of information about sex and gender. Acknowledge that perceptions about sex and gender are influenced by many different sources. That's an excerpt from page 50 of that report. The NCCA RSE Symposium, dated the 27th of the 11th, 2018, Minister McHugh welcomes consultation, and this is going to be a timeline as well. Sorry, folks. Timeline as well as included, as well as the pertinent information, who to keep an eye out for, interactions between all the main players involved in bringing this around, and finally ending up with the main players in the UN. Excuse me. Minister McHugh welcomes consultation symposium on relationships, sexuality education. The Minister for Education and Skills, Joe McHugh, TD, today, Tuesday, the 27th of November, 2018, welcomed the convening of a consultation symposium on relationships, sexual education. The symposium, which is taking place today in Collins Barracks, Dublin, is being held as part of the consultation underway by the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, NCCA, as a key element of a review of relationship and sexuality education in schools. And that source is from marionstreet.ie. Here is a selection of the tweets. Alice O'Donnell tweeted out, looking forward to lots of interesting discussions today at the RSE review, ncca.ie. Various different tweets. Sandra Irvin Gowan, really important and long overdue work being done to bring our RSE programs into the 21st century. Hashtag RSE review. Looking forward to bringing recommendations to Educate Together Schools for consultation. This from Teen Eye. Today, Catherine and Gordon are attending the NCCA's Relationship and Sexuality Education Symposium. Lots of positive discussion about reviewing the current RSE curriculum, especially regarding the inclusion of trans and LGBTI plus experiences. Sandra Irwin Gorwin. Goran, DCU, research paper on RSE in Irish schools being presented as the RSE review outlines 3 approaches to RSE: 1, abstinence model, comprehensive model, and 3, holistic sexual education. We continue. The NCCA itself tweeted out 27th of November 2018, Professor Mark Morgan and Dr. Celine Keating from Dublin City Uni presenting on their research paper on RSE in primary and post-primary schools. You can download the paper and submit your views on RSE. Youth Work Ireland jumped in as well. Looking forward to some interesting discussions on the future of RSE. That was dated the 27th of November 2018. And this entity here, delighted to have contributed to the Relationship and Sexual Education Symposium, more detailed about Foróige's holistic evidence-based Real You program are available on our website. Sarah Haslam quotes, lots of questions being about the Foróige holistic evidence-based program, Real You. For more info, visit our website or email training. Again, this is just a list of all the different people that piped up on in Twitter. The PDSD health well-being. It was great to catch up with our esteemed colleague at Paul Knox 1985 at the NCCA RSE Symposium. Paul is now an NCCA educating officer and is leading out the RSE review. Make sure you contribute your opinion. And the SPHE network chimed in. Professor Mark Morgan and Dr. Celine Keating presented an excellent overview of their research paper written with Dr. Bernie Collins at the RSE Symposium today. A great context to support the RSE review development and the SPHE network. Again, a really thought-provoking and insightful symposium on the review of RSE hosted by NCCA today. Great to meet many network colleagues in attendance. Thank you for having us. Again, the reason we're going through these tweets and all that is to give you an idea of all the players, all the different people that are involved in all of this, bringing it around together, and those who voiced up their opinions. We continue. In the above tweet, SPHE Network, Social, Personal and Health Education Network, thank Patrick Sullivan and Paul Knox from the NCCA for having them at the symposium. According to another tweet above by Professional Development Services for Teachers, Health and Wellbeing team, Paul Knox is an NCCA education officer and is leading out the RSE review. On the 19th of the 6th, 2018, Paul Knox retweets a tweet from the Irish Family Planning Association, see below. This tweet gives a link to a page on the International Planned Parenthood Federation website. This retweeted from Paul Knox, who is leading out from the NCCA. The IFPA, the Irish FPA, governments owe young people sex and relationship education. We need to give young people the skills to protect themselves from sexual, physical, and emotional endangerment and coercion. Read IPPF's analysis of the state of sex ed in Europe. Again, the tweet or the retweet came with a GIF attached. The link in the above tweet brings you to a page entitled Sexuality Education, where it stands across Europe and Central Asia, which provides links to two BZJA and IPPF reports. See below page 9, which have information on sexuality education in Ireland. Here are 4 details from this page. These are just the inserts that are attached to that page, the IPFF. We looked at sex ed programs in 25 countries across Europe and Central Asia and found that, number 1, progress is underway with 21 countries supporting sex ed through laws, policies, and or strategies. Number 2, in 11 countries, it is mandatory in schools. Number 3, in 10 countries, sex ed is comprehensive. 4, in 12 countries, there is still strong opposition. 5, educators need more training to provide sex ed. Don't forget that if the government wish to make it do so, that they will make it mandatory. And I remind you of the strategies that both Ellie and Peter Tatchell have advocated in subverting the parental consent and making them take their children out of the classroom physically. Again, in another second piece, sexuality education in the WHO European regions, focusing very much on Ireland. The sexuality education in Europe and Asia from the IPPF, and this excerpt from it says, in the majority of countries in the European region, there is a clear need to train teachers to teach sexuality education. And there is a great need to develop the appropriate educational material for that purpose. Only a handful of countries throughout the region has the training of future teachers on sexuality education being included in the training curricula of teacher training colleges and universities. The same should now be done in all other countries where sexuality education is mandatory or optional. The WHO, the BZJA, Standards for Sexual Education in Europe from 2010, and the publication Training Matters, a framework for core competences of sexuality educators, can be useful in this purpose. And this links are provided there for you to go off and view that. And like I said to you, the whole links for this will be placed in the very last broadcast from today. I don't know how long it's going to take. We are on now currently page 9 of 159 pages. So let's get through it. Paul Knox from the NCCA then retweets again. This from Educate and Celebrate. This is Peter Thatchell's organization, who are over here and had been over here promoting and giving guidance. Paul Knox retweeted, Educate and Celebrate. Happy LGBTHM 2019. In celebration of Team Peace and Reconciliation, we launch our Faith Schools report in partnership at Goldsmiths UOL, at Anna Carlile. Timely and much needed. Please retweet. Becoming LGBT plus friendly. This is the big concern for me and always will be, the plus No definition of what it includes. Friendly in schools, serving faith communities. And I like the way they've included that as well. A selection of tweets from the Educate and Celebrate handle. Educate and Celebrate retweeted, yes, for our book on how to transform your school into an LGBT plus friendly place, a practical guide for nursery, primary, secondary teachers. Congrats, Dr. Ellie Barnes, MBE, and Dr. Anna Carroll. And you'll remember Dr. Ellie Barnes was the one who was at the 2018 Wexford Convention for Teachers. And she also advocated for the bypass of parental or for parents to take their children out of the classes. And we're lauding here that they've been awarded or shortlisted for the Teach Secondary Awards. And again, Celebrate and Celebrate together. You can see where we got yesterday's thumbnail. Educate and Celebrate on July 16 say, are you prepared for compulsory or SE? We empower and support you to embed gender, gender identity, sexual orientation into the fabric of your school. Join our well-established Pride and Inclusion Award 2019-2020 for a September start. This from their own piece. And again, Educate and Celebrate retweet themselves with this. Why we need LGBT plus inclusive teaching from nursery. This is directed at Sadiq Khan over in the United Kingdom on the world stage at 5 p.m. Also included in that tweet was Josina Kalista, a happy tale of growing up. So tonight at the London Mayor's Pride reception, I bumped into one of my music teachers from secondary school. I knew at Ellie Barnes had been doing great things since I left Stokey. You can see her there. And Pride, they retweeted Pride Youth Network with the hashtag. And again, the hearts, the rainbows, and the butterfly. The butterfly I will draw your attention to here. The butterfly has many, and symbology is key. Always keep an eye out for the butterfly. More will come of that, will become apparent as that information is released. And again, Educate and Celebrate go on to tweet out, learning how to break the binary in our lessons. Follow DECTC, great discussions with staff on how to present intersex RSC and moving towards a gender-neutral school. Birmingham Gender, eliminating heteronormativity. Excellent session, Pride Youth work. And again, I remind you, always with the butterfly or the unicorn, are not just, yes, thank you, Raven. Raven has it in there. Raven knows exactly what it means. Again, I'm giving you these soft lead-ups, and I'm not trying to add my own piece into this very well-researched piece, so I'll just get through it. But the little key points like that I will bring out. Educate and Celebrate together, then retweet. My kid is gay at My Kids Gay, July 30th. Talking to young kids about gender and gender identity can seem complicated, but at Queer Kid Stuff, at Lid Zamer is here to help. Again, links to bring you off there. New Yorker Lindsay Amir of Queer Kid Stuff, the LGBTQ plus vids for kids is recommended in the above tweet. Here is her linked article. Here's how to explain gender identity and expression to kids. Just because gender seems complicated to us grown-ups doesn't mean that it has to be complicated for kids. We have had many years of the gender binary and stereotypical gender presentations burned into our brains, but kids haven't. So really, it doesn't have to be a big, complex conversation. Here, we're talking about the difference between gender identity and gender expression. The first thing I would do is define those two ideas independently. Gender identity is internal. It's about how you feel about your gender. That has to do with what pronouns you use, i.e., the words that stand in your name based on your gender. Some people use she, pronouns she, her, hers, and some use he, pronouns he, him, his. Some use they, pronouns they, them, their. And I thought we crashed there. Ooh, I'm back again. So we continue. And some use their other gender-neutral pronouns, he, her, hers. By contrast, gender expression is external. It's how you present your gender to other people through your clothes, your hair, your makeup, or your lack of makeup. That's how you talk about these ideas separately. Now that you've got that sorted out, then you can talk about how they relate to each other. You've already given the perfect explanation in your question. You can't tell what someone's pronouns are just by looking at them. That's exactly the lesson you should teach your kids. It's simple and straightforward. Teach them that you have short hair and use she pronouns, and you can wear dresses and use he pronouns. Instead of assuming someone's gender or pronouns from their appearance, you can teach your kids to ask for someone's pronouns first. So far, so simple. What can be difficult about this for us grown-ups is explaining different facets of gender expression. I found that it's difficult to explain exactly what feminine, masculine, and androgynous means without using gendered language. So what I recommend is using examples. Take a look at people in your life and look up a couple of queer public figures online. Do you know people who present feminine? How about anyone who is androgynous? How about masculine? Make sure you include non-binary and trans people in your examples. Don't forget people of color too. Show your kids the pictures you found and talk about their pronouns and how that compares to how they present themselves. Show them that you can't know someone's pronouns just by looks alone, with a diverse representation of presentation and pronoun combinations. You can continue installing this lesson as far as you need. Encourage your kids to get into the habit of asking people's pronouns when they meet someone new. And be sure to lead by example in your own life. It's respectful and polite, and ensure that they don't misgender someone. Allow them to experiment with their own pronouns and presentation as well. Now is the time for them to play dress up and pretend play with different genders. Don't just teach them about other people's identities and expressions. Show them these lessons apply to them as well. Live chat, I know you're in there. I'm going to get through it. I'm going to read it. And I see your questions, but we are going to crack on. And that leads on into this. This is an excerpt from a YouTube channel called LGBTQ plus Kings and Queens, featuring Miss Tier, drag queer kid stuff. This is aimed at kids. And I won't point anything out or say anything else, but what I want you to be aware of is that flag's color and what they mean. Flags are very important. Flags are statement missions in essence, and they show you the different factions within the transgender community. A queer stuff YouTube video talking about Pride Month and drag. Lindsay Amir. New Yorkers, what are you doing tomorrow? Come out to the Children's Museum of Manhattan for QKS live performances, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Queer kid stuff. Wait a minute. What are you doing Sunday? Maybe after brunch you want to go to the New York City and sing some songs and listen to some stories. Lindsay Amir. Title for my memoir, How to Brainwash Children and Change the World. Lindsay Amir, June 2018. I love very few things more than educators telling me they use queer kids stuff videos in their curriculum. In one of the above tweets, Lindsay Amir writes, title for my memoir, How to Brainwash Children and to Change the World. This echoes a post on Instagram by an Irish adult entertainment collective called Glitterhole. In early 2019, Glitterhole were involved in a controversy around drag story time in Dublin's Dean's Grange Library. Grip Media reported on the controversy. Drag queens Glitterhole to read to 3-year-olds in Dean's Grange Library. Parents have expressed concern at a decision by Dean's Grange Library to host 3 drag queens from a collective named Glitterhole to read to 3 to 7-year-olds in the library. This seems wildly inappropriate, since when did taxpayer-funded libraries think drag queens with sexually suggestive names are a good fit for 3-year-old children? One parent told Grip Media, our kids are getting saturated with these messages, but you don't expect it to be part of a visit to a library. Most parents are inclined to keep their kids away from this stuff, but there's a group here who are pushing this, and my worry is that these performances will be in schools next, and they wouldn't be shy about telling you what you are bigoted for not wanting your child to watch an act from a group called Glitterhole. I feel people need to wake up. The government is talking about regulating harmful and sexualized online content, but at the same time, they're putting this content on for our children in the local library. It's very upsetting. What do you know? What do you think? Let us know your comments below. That from Grip Media. And again, you can see the Instagram accounts from Glitterhole and a certain number of the proponents or the participants in it. And it tweeted out, Glitterhole, come to the party in the park and we can indoctrinate your kids with our grey stories. They say it themselves, ladies and gentlemen. They say it themselves. When the Dean's Grain Library controversy erupted, this Instagram picture was immediately removed from the Glitterhole Instagram account. This is the first time this Instagram picture has been published since then. And you can see that along with the quote. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, the interweb never forgets. This here is Lady Guru at the Glitter Cool at one of her presentations on a stage show. Here you can see someone dressed as a nun, and you can see somebody dressed in whatever garb that is. This is a sample of Glitterhole adult entertainment show. The performer wearing the Santa Claus hat is an entertainer from New York called Kate McGrew, aka Lady Gru. Professor Honkelberg also tweeted out, you remember our good friend Professor Jeremiah Honkelberg, and at the time he tweeted out, Glitterhole, the group who demanded 3-year-olds to read to, are involved in many videos of anti-Catholic hate show. This one taking place at the bigotry that has no place in modern Ireland. In shocking footage, Catholics are degraded and laughed at. We won't play that, but needless to say, that link will be included in the full article when I give it out to you. In this 2019 Twitter thread, there is discussion as to the suitability of adult entertainment group like Glitterhole to read to 3-year-olds. Give me one sec there. Just to reset the camera. Drag Queen Story Hour, DQSH, has over 30 chapters in the US with several international ones. In June 2019, there was a health promotion centre in the Health Promotion Research Centre in NUI Galway, building a healthy Ireland, promoting health and well-being in education settings in collaboration with the Department of Health, Health Service Executive, Association of Health Promotion. Very distraction. In Ireland and the Department of Education and Skills. Like the BZJA in Germany, NUIG's Health Promotion Research Centre is a World Health Organization collaborative centre. Fiona Foreman was a speaker at NUIG's HPRC WHO's CC conference in June 2019, and here is a selection of her tweets. I'll leave it there with the title. Fiona Foreman is a teacher, co-author of Weaving Wellbeing, author of Wired for Wellbeing, MSc Positive Psychology, MAPP, MAPP, putting well-being into the heart of education. Hope you're paying attention, ladies and gentlemen. And from her tweet, June 13, great to get the opportunity to deliver a presentation on Weaving Wellbeing program into NUIG this morning at the Health Promotion Conference. Really enjoyed other presentations and getting the chance to hear international perspectives on well-being in schools. Amazing that over 250 teachers have signed up to our face-to-face summer courses around the country starting tomorrow. Shout out to our fantastic crew facilitators. So thrilled to have you on the team. You can read the ads there yourself. And also this from June 29. Woke up to great news from Australia that Weaving Wellbeing is already a bestseller. What an incredible start. Its journey down under. And this pin tweet on her Twitter handle from February 6th. If you're interested in school, parent, or student walks on well-being, check out my details below. And as a facilitator, well-being facilitator, I'm a primary school teacher, well-being in schools facilitator training, and co-author of the Weaving Wellbeing program. I hold an MSc in Applied Positive Psychology, which is the science of well-being. I'm passionate about placing well-being at the heart of schools and empowering teachers, parents, and children to understand and enhance their own mental health. I've designed and delivered many courses and sessions on the subject of well-being, and I am available to deliver talks, workshops, training to teachers and pupils. Talks workshops include nurturing teacher well-being through positive psychology, enhance children's well-being approaches from positive psychology, developing a whole school approach to well-being, building resilient children, an overview of positive psychology and the Weaving Wellbeing program. For parents, raising resilient children, an overview of positive psychology and the Weaving Wellbeing program. And for children, the power of positivity. And following on a reply, thanks so much for your kind words. I feel so lucky to have a background in positive psychology as it provides me with so many fantastic skills and strategies that I love to share. Thanks again for all your encouragement. From Dr. Brenda O'Sullivan, I think that at Fiona Wellbeing is one of the best voices in Ireland on personal development. Fiona Foreman, again, in another tweet from June 4th, supporting LGBTQ students in elementary school. 3 strategies elementary school teachers can use to foster a sense of inclusion for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer students. Well, that escalated quickly from well-being to a whole host of something else. 4th to 6/19, Fiona Foreman tweets this article published on May 2019 by an American educator called Paul France in a magazine called Edutopia. This by Paul Emeris France, and this is his Twitter handle and his Twitter name. And his pinned tweet says, "We're here, we're queer, we're teaching your kids. Homophobia is alive and well in our schools. Read and share this to validate these brave teachers' stories." And it continues, supporting LGBTQ students in elementary school. 3 strategies elementary school teachers can use to foster a sense of inclusion for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender and queer students. Don't forget the queer. The Q is very important. If you're following along with Dr. Scott and queer theory, you'll understand its nebulousness. This is a part of a conversation that they used to use in children's classes. "Paul, do you have a girlfriend?" Parker asked me. "I don't," I replied succinctly, hoping to avoid the topic altogether. "Why?" she queried. "Because I don't want one," I said. "Why?" she asked again, smiling up at me. It was clear I wasn't going to get out of this one. This first grader had questions and would demand answers. "Because I have a boyfriend," I finally exhaled. "Oh, that's weird," she said. "I understand sometimes when things are different, they seem a little weird," I replied. What do you think? Why do you think it's weird?" "Well, I just don't like when people make fun of you. I feel bad for you." In these few minutes, it seemed as though my heart was broken and put together all at once. We adults often think of sexuality and gender as things that are out of reach for students, especially our youngest ones. We project our discomfort on them, assuming that discussing sexuality, biological sex, or gender is inappropriate for young students. But it's clear from conversations like the one I had with Parker that children come into our classroom with a wealth of knowledge. One of our jobs as educators is to welcome students' perspectives into the classroom, but we can also dismantle ways of thinking that reinforce the gender dichotomy and heteronormativity. And we must create safe spaces for children to explore their identities and empathize with those who are different from them. In 2017, the CDC estimated that 8% of high school students identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer, LGBTQ. Kevin Jennings, founder of the Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network, estimates that 1 in 10 educators in the United States identifies as LGBTQ. These data provide the moral imperative for showing pride in the classroom, for finding ways to include the LGBTQ community in our curriculum. The problem is that when most teachers don't know where to start, even in spaces where the LGBTQ community is already welcomed and visible. Three ways to create an LGBTQ inclusive classroom. Number 1, include LGBTQ children's literature in your class library. As educators, we should provide both windows and mirrors in our curriculum, ensuring that our book selection represents a diverse array of people and identities. These includes the LGBTQ community. While you may not know it yet, especially if you teach young children, there are students who will identify as LGBTQ at some point in their lives. Our job is to provide safe and role models for them as they age. This also means that we must represent the intersectionality, there's that word, intersectionality, that exists in the LGBTQ community, sharing stories of different genders, ethnicities, races, religions, and classes. Here are a few of my book recommendations, which are mostly for grades K to 5. Now, I remind you, and I just as a quick aside, that Philip O'Dwyer, he of the National Party, went into one of Dublin's public libraries yesterday and is following it up today. And I know he will carry on through. That the book that we spoke about, Magenta Diaries, is in Dublin school libraries. I encourage you today, if you're out and about, or if you're indeed anywhere, go to your public library and specifically ask for that book and see if it is in the public libraries. And I've given you a whole wealth of information. And just as a video interlude to that book, the Magenta Diaries, for those of you tuning in afterwards, have a listen to what this Australian lady says about that book itself.
This transgender book contains graphic descriptions of pedophilia, and it could be in the youth section of your library. I know it's in mine. Beyond Magenta, Transgender Teens Speak Out is a compilation of first-hand accounts by transgender teens. It's incredibly explicit and inappropriate. This is one of the books I've warned you about in the brand new anti-PC P&C pack produced by Binary. This book is just one example of the dangerous ideas being promoted to your kids. I found this one being promoted in the youth section of our library. It describes atrocious violent behaviour without apology and illegal pedophilic actions without qualification. Rigid stereotypes are given as the reason some of these teens felt they're in the wrong body. One boy says, "When I was 4 or 5, I wore girls' clothes." So what? That doesn't make anyone a girl. He goes on to say that someone challenged him out on the street about wearing a dress, and he asked, "Why not?" And the response was, "Because you have a dick." What's a dick? I didn't know what one was. Well, the guy said, "The boys have dicks and girls have pussies." The conversation continues along these lines. Charming stuff for your young teenager to be reading, don't you think? The F word is littered throughout the book as well. Another account describes a kid being so mad he pushed his pregnant teacher to the ground. He said, he knew he shouldn't have done it, but he was justified, and said it a number of times that he was just mad. Well, that doesn't make it okay. But far worse is the graphic descriptions of oral sex. A couple of stories include this. Let me read this for you. From 6 up, I used to kiss other guys in my neighbourhood, make out with them and perform oral sex on them. I liked it, and I touched their you-know-whats. He goes on to describe sexual exploits with girls, masturbation and pedophiles. There's no mention that this is illegal and incredibly harmful behaviour. It's simply a part of the account describing why this person is transgender. The damaging nature of these activities is alluded to as the story unfolds, but nothing specifically calls it out. This is not appropriate material for an adult, let alone teenagers. And this book is being promoted to youth in some libraries. Please don't be complacent. Check your local library and school library today. There is a radical gender agenda that wants your kids to be desensitised to graphic, illegal, harmful material. Get a hold of one of our P&C packs. Find out what other books you need to be aware of. Find the resources we suggest you should get into your libraries and your local school. Ensure your kids are protected from this very, very harmful agenda.
Okay, and a list of other books that Paul France recommends. And I don't know if that conversation was part of his conversation of that books as well. But here are a few of my book recommendations, which are mostly for grades K to 5. And I encourage you to seek these out if you're going to go to our public libraries and do your own investigation. And I encourage you to do so. If you are a parent, it's incumbent upon you to do this. All Are Welcome by Alexandria Penfold and Susan Kaufman. Julian is a Mermaid by Jessica Love. Pride, the story of Harvey Milk and the Rainbow Flag by Rob Sanders. Queer Heroes, meet 52 LGBTQ heroes from the past and present by Arabella Siccardi. Pink is for Boys by Rob Perlman. A Family is a Family by Sarah O'Leary. George by Alex Gino, and The Boy and the Bindi by Vivek Sharaya, I think. Number 2, rethink practices and reinforce gender dichotomy. Gender is constructed through intergenerational experiences and social norms. Let me read that out again. Rethink practices that reinforce the gender dichotomy. Gender is constructed through intergenerational experiences and social norms. Once we're aware of this, we can deconstruct the gender dichotomy and rebuild it as a fluid spectrum. There are some simple ways to do this. Start saying, "Good morning, everyone," instead of "Good morning, boys and girls." Have critical conversations with your kids about many assumptions we make based on gender, providing counterexamples like boys who like to sing or girls who play sports. Even if written gender out I've even written gender out of the stories I write with my class. In one instance, I was writing a fairy tale adaptation of Cinderella modeling for my class. "Is it a boy or a girl?" one student queried. "Maybe we don't need to assign our character a gender," I replied, using the pronoun "their" deliberately throughout. Now you can see it, like giving instructions. Number 3, capitalize on teachable moments. My experience with Parker didn't happen because I planned it. It happened because Parker wanted to know me better. She wanted to find out about part of my personal life. Over the course of her rather short life, Parker had learned that lots of adults have special people in their lives. And when those people aren't husbands or wives, they are often boyfriends or girlfriends. To her, it seemed only natural to ask. I could have shied away from the conversation, as I intended to do at the outset. In hindsight, I'm glad I took the teachable moment by the horns. If you're an LGBTQ educator like me, embracing these moments allows us to share a piece of ourselves that can provide a window or a mirror into a whole set of stories to which most of our children have not been exposed. If you're not, such moments provide you an opportunity to demonstrate how to be an ally for the LGBTQ community. It's scary, I know. For so many of us, this is uncharted territory, but to ignore these moments would be to operate in opposition to justice. To quiet students' voices would mean crushing autonomy, courage, and vulnerability. And as educators, we cannot and must not do that. We have a responsibility, you see, as we enter into Pride Month. I hope it's one that you don't take lightly. Paul Knox retweets for Barry Morrissey. Great interest in books on diversity and families at PDST RSE seminar in Clare Education Centre. These books are a wonderful resource for complementing the teaching of SPHE in a child-friendly and inclusive way. Zooming in on a couple of them. A Tale of Two Mammies, The Huge Bag Worries, The Great Big Book of Families, King and King, Mama, Mama and Me, Daddy, Papa and Me, It's Okay to Be Different, The Sissy Duckling and the Family Book, to name but a few. Some of the books that feature in the above tweet appear in Questioning LGBT Education. British parents deeply concerned that LGBT in schools has gone way beyond. A book with two mums and an indoctrination, doing the useless media's job for them. And there's a YouTube clip linked to that. What are they actually teaching about LGBT in British primary schools? Now, you'll notice in some instances that it initially starts out as LGBT, then it goes on to LGBTQ, and then it finishes off finally on LGBTQ+. Now, the plus is to include the other 72 genders and sexual preferences. In Questioning LGBT Education YouTube video, an analysis is done of the book King and King, CBBC's video diary of Leo, a 13-year-old child on hormone blockers attending the Tavistock Centre. Andrew Moffat, a personal social health education teacher from Parkfield Community School in Birmingham, who is in the middle of an LGBT teaching row. And these tweets here, as it pertains to the United Kingdom, into LGBT plus teachers. We're at Filcha and ready to go on a stand. Come talk to us about strategies for proactive inclusion of LGBT plus identities. They very often so leave out the Q and just identify it as the plus. We will also be at the Teach and Meet at 12 o'clock. In September 2019, a Teaching Council of Ireland held their annual event, Filcha, this year in NUI Galway. The Into LGBT Plus Teachers Group had a stand. Many of the books from Paul Knox's retweets were featured at the stand. Cecilia Gavigan of Balbriggan Educate Together National School said that the stand was about proactive measures for LGBT inclusion in classrooms as a preventative strategy for the anti-bullying guidelines from 2013. She also said that they were asked to do this work because the SPHE curriculum, it asks us to look at the diversity of families. So these, pointing to the table display, are supporting teachers to achieve the objectives already in the SPHE curriculum. She said that from junior infants up to the 6th class, the objective is that children become aware of the diversity of families in society. Cecilia Gavigan also spoke about the Into LGBT Plus inclusive staff room posters, saying it's an adult-based resource. And I'm going to finish off the broadcast on this one here, and then I'm going to take a 10-15 minute break, and then I'm going to jump into part 2, and we'll set it up and go again. And I want to thank you for your continued presence here as well. 309 in the room. LGBT plus inclusive staff room. Good practice guidelines for the inclusion of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender staff. While our LGBT plus colleagues are legally protected from discrimination, it's up to all of us to ensure that our schools are open and welcoming places for them to work in. Here are some of the ways to build an LGBT plus inclusive staff room. Number one, be conscious that some of your colleagues, members and their families and or friends are gay, lesbian, bisexual or transgender and may or may not be out. Two, ask staff members what pronouns they use, e.g. they, she, he, and use them. Three, respond positively when colleagues disclose their sexual orientation or gender identity. Four, challenge homophobic, biophobic, or transphobic comments and jokes. It is important to speak up as silence implies that you agree. 5, encourage the use of inclusive and gender-neutral language, e.g. partner. This is especially important if you do not know the gender of a person's partner and avoid assuming heterosexuality. 6, if you are unsure of what language to use, ask an LGBT plus group for guidance, e.g. Into LGBT Teachers Group, the TNI, Transgender Equality Network Ireland. In some circumstances, it may be permissible to ask an LGBT plus staff member, but use discretion. They are not responsible for the education of the staff body on LGBT plus issues. Number 7, review the adult anti-bullying policy to ensure it includes an explicit reference to homophobic and transphobic bullying. Number 8, ensure that positive staff relations policy include a way of dealing with situations when gay, queer, etc. is used as terms of abuse. Number 9, be proactive in creating an LGBT inclusive space. Display LGBT plus inclusive posters in the staff room. Provide access to gender neutral toilets where possible. Consider an LGBT plus perspective when drawing up workplace policies or organizing staff social events. And 10, finally, talk about issues that affect LGBT plus people alongside all other equality issues discussed in the staff room. Break the silence. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming up on 57 minutes. We're going to end part 1 here and we'll pick it up in part 2. We'll take a quick break and then we will jump straight back into part 2 of our dissemination of the RSE. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to make the outro pretty brief as well. And join me in about 10 or 15 minutes time for today's second broadcast. And these will all be backed up to BitChute and will be available for you to disseminate at your pleasure. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you on the flip side for part 2. I hope to see you there. See you now. Oh, hang on a second. Hope to see you over on part 2 where I'll probably have a bit better lighting and I'll have it more arranged. But see you over there in about 10 or 15 minutes. Talk to you shortly.